All right, so thanks for joining us tonight, or whenever you're listening to this. We have Brian and Jason from Sipzee. I'm saying that correct, right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I didn't want to mess it up. I didn't think I would, but you just got to clarify. So
I'm gonna kill that.
You're gonna kill what?
I'm gonna kill that name because you know what? I can't. You can't tell the difference when I say a Z or Z.
Well, Jesper's from
well,
Denmark.
we can give you guys the background of how we came up with it.
Yeah,
too.
tell us. Go for it.
Tell us.
Okay, so I think when I first started thinking about it, we were looking for names, right? A long time. The concept was born years and years and years ago, and then it wasn't really until gig economy stuff popped in our mind that it became more viable to do. But name wise, it's actually not that interesting of how we came up with the name. We were literally like, okay, we don't have a lot of money, but we don't want some big long name, but we want a URL that we don't have to pay a lot of money for.
Yes.
Yeah. But we want a word, something that is actually sayable at least and sounds kind of like a word, even though it's not a word. Preferably 6 characters or less.
You picked a good URL name, like a domain name, whenever it's going to cost you like $4,000.
Yeah.
And I think I found a couple. I'm like, oh, this isn't taken. Oh, it's 16,000. That must have been a better one.
Man.
Yeah. I actually originally I had purchased
Green Turn.
Green Turn, GREEN turn, kind of like return. Green Turn, because it's green recycling and all that. So I purchased that originally, but all I could get was the .org.
Oh.
And then we were like, like the .com is super expensive, and I don't really like that name anyway. So we were like, let's just go with something short and simple. We've gotten both positive and negative feedback. Yeah, the Z makes it difficult to say for sure, but we were able to get sipzee.com for next to nothing, which is like, there's not a lot of 6-character .com domains that you don't have to pay a significant amount of money for.
Interesting. Nowadays. Yeah, I had a couple of times when I wrote it down in my head because I wasn't looking at anything. I wrote it down as Zip-C. I just reversed the Z and the S, and then I looked back when I was creating something, and I was like, "Oh, that's not right."
Yeah, and we like that it had sip in it, right? So
yeah.
We haven't gone with this mantra or anything, but I always use if you're often getting tipsy, think about Sipzee.
There you go.
maybe we'll build on that for marketing someday. Who knows?
Yeah. So why don't you tell us? Jesper and I really kind of know. I mean, I became a returner. Jesper's son is a returner. I haven't done it yet, but why don't you tell the people that are listening, like what it is, what the concept is, how do people make money, how does the customer get, just in general, how it works.
Yep. You want Jason?
Go for it, Brian. Go for it.
Okay. So yeah, the concept in general is, right, in Michigan we have a bottle recycling program, and other states have this too.
Yeah.
But there's not many that have a 10-cent one. There's I think 10 others that have 5 cents, and one other that has a 10-cent. Or so roughly, but it doesn't really work on a 5-cent model. They're also kind of old and outdated. The bottle bill in Michigan's from the 70s. And it's funny because from our research and discussion with some of the big recycling players in Michigan, you find out like the intention was for it to be such a large amount of money that it made it meaningful to do the recycling. In 10 cents in the 70s is completely different than 10 cents today, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is discussions going on, at the lawmaking level within Michigan and even other countries or other states and within the federal government too of more programs like this, because it has been really successful for Michigan, this program. But the basic concept is, though, you don't want to take your cans and bottles back to the store. I think we launched in January of 2021, roughly. So we've been at it for about 20 months. And really that was in kind of the mid of COVID, which I would say is the thing that pushed the software forward for us and the company forward was, okay, so when COVID came around, you're talking about people that are now piling up cans and bottles at their house, right? And at one point, we even in Michigan shut down the recycling centers. So nobody could recycle even if they wanted to. But even when they opened back up, people had already kind of migrated towards gig economy grocery delivery, right? And so the only convenience of recycling your own cans and bottles is that you're already going to go to the store to buy more groceries, so you might as well take your cans and bottles back at that time, right? And then pair that with, doesn't it make more sense to have, if you're trying to stop the spread of COVID, have one person recycling 10 households cans and bottles than to have 10 households doing their own.
Yeah.
So I would say those are really the 3 main drivers that were like, okay, we want to get some sort of a service going And the only model I could come up with that's financially viable is a gig economy type model, which I had thought of this concept probably over a decade ago originally. But then you start talking about the infrastructure, trucks, employees. Like I don't like recycling cans and bottles. It's not my favorite thing to do. I would love to have that could do it, but it's just not affordable or financially viable to do without this type of a model, right? The gig economy. And so really once, things like Uber, Lyft, that we had talked about a little earlier came out, it was like, wow, maybe we can make this work that way. So the general concept is a household or a business. We had originally intended it to be for households, but businesses and venues have also started using us just organically without us having to do much, which has been interesting. Like even some of the restaurants in Grand Rapids, they could give the bottles back to their distributors, but just because of the amount of time and the headache it takes sometimes for them, they'll just use Sipzee instead of regular cans and bottles. But the general concept is a 10-cent bottle. The person who owns the bottle and uses Sipzee to recycle it gets 5 cents back for the bottles that are picked up. The other side of the gig economy piece, the person that actually will come to your house or business or venue and pick up the cans and bottles gets 4 cents of that 10-cent bottle. And then the software, Sipzee, for facilitating the transaction and all that, takes a penny, 1 cent on it.
Okay.
And so if you're, again, on the side of the customer, you've got cans and bottles pretty much anywhere in Michigan at this point. You can go into Sipzee.com, put in a request. One of the features we've added to the software right away, because we knew people don't like counting cans and bottles, was the ability to click on the types of bags or containers you have or whatever, right? And then that was me at my house filling out all kinds of different bags and counting them to come up with a estimate tool, essentially, so that customers can not count their cans and bottles. They can just say, I have this size bag roughly. It's a kitchen bag and it's full of it's 50% cans and 50% 2 liters or whatever, right? And so this thing will just allow a customer to build out their rough estimated quantity.
Okay.
And then they can say when it's available for pickup, provide any specific instructions, submit it. The recyclers can sign up, in the community as well. They can add their service areas. Where do they want to work? How far are they willing to drive? They can do that by dragging and dropping, the actual radius on a map or putting in specific zip codes they're willing to service. And then, customer submits it, gets in there, it goes out into our marketplace. The recycler looks at the order and goes, I'm interested in coming to get these ones, claims it, connects the two of them. And then, so the recycler will come and pick up the cans and bottles. And then the customer never has to ever give us any money. Actually, it's us paying them, which is kind of unique. I think for any gig economy model, it's actually unique that the recyclers, the people providing the service, are the ones paying.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that was kind of how.
I've not seen that anywhere. Where it's like, well, actually, our customers are our service people are actually more like our customers than our customers are, because the money is flowing the opposite direction it does in almost every other gig economy model I've ever seen.
But they're paying a discounted rate, obviously, for it. They're not paying the full price, and then we turn around and send 95% of that right back to the customer, and then that penny stays with us. Yep.
Why did you decide? Why not flip the amount? Why not give 5 to the gig worker and 4 to the customer who doesn't really care about the cans anyways? You know what I mean? They're probably donating a lot of it, I would assume.
Yep.
Well, but the returner gets 6 today, though, right? That should.
So they get 4. Yep.
4.
So, but it's a little bit more tricky than that. So I just explained a very simple concept of the 10-cent bottle can. But what actually usually ends up happening is that our estimate tool is definitely designed to underestimate, right?
Okay.
Correct.
The cans of bottles. Because the worst thing that happens is a recycler comes out, these guys want to go out and provide the service, and they go out, drive to your house, pick them up, and find out that they have less cans and bottles than what you had estimated. It's not feasible for this business model. This is something we struggle with a lot early on with setting it up. It's not feasible for a recycler to inventory the cans and bottles, go to the store, figure out how many were from each household, and then shore up the exact amounts, right? They just go pick up. I've got a bunch of cans and bottles. I hope I made some money at the end of the day, right? And so we definitely do. A lot of customers use the estimate tool because they don't want to count, which usually ends up in what we call bonus bottles, which means in that case, the recycler is actually getting 10 cents completely on any extra bottles in there. And You're right, the customers don't generally seem to care. In fact, a lot of our customers donate their proceeds. They either tip their proceeds to the recycler in cans and bottles. So that was one feature we added, or they donate them to, I think we have 70 some charities, fundraisers, and small local businesses that they can donate their proceeds to.
Yeah.
So why 5 cents and 4 cents? Honestly, it was like, well, let's test it out. And it's very important that the recyclers make enough money to make it worth it.
Right.
So that was where we started. And it seems to be a decent balance right now for us, but it's not necessarily something we wouldn't change, based on how it goes. But it's not been much of a problem. I would say in general, the recyclers they're not really getting 4 cents, maybe on some pickups. If it's a customer that's very strict on their quantity, they've counted them exactly and they want their money, maybe 4 cents. But in general, they're averaging quite a bit more. I mean, we have some customers who submit, for 400 cans and bottles, and the reality is they have 700. And so that's an extra $30 for that recycler in that scenario. They just pick up on top of it.
Wow.
So essentially, I mean, and again, I know this is not how it is, but essentially, the returner pays for your profit. If you just look at the one bottle, but that's obviously not how it is, because very often there's always additional bottles.
Yeah.
I mean, my son has done 3 orders, and all of them has been above. I mean,
good. That's great. That's great to hear.
His first order, somebody donated all the profits. So he's like, there was a 1987 tip on it, right? So that must have been that.
Yeah.
And he was, thrilled. So, but he also.
Yeah. That's great. That's really great to hear. And then it happens. Sometimes the pickups happen and they don't go well, right? And in those scenarios, we work with our recyclers. Deal with the customers accordingly, right? You can make notes on their accounts so next time they know, hey, you actually underestimated your quantity quite a bit, and we had to refund our recyclers some money. We want to make sure they're generally making a good amount of money on every pickup. But the profit for a recycler varies pickup. But in general, the way it flows is the recycler will pay 60% of the value of the cans and bottles
up front. Yep.
Our software at their door, essentially, when they pick them up, our software immediately transfers the other 50%, the 50% of the value of those cans and bottles, 5 cents per, back to the customer, back to the charity, or the recycler doesn't pay it at all because the customer donated all of their proceeds to the recycler. So in the case where they donated, like your example, then he should have been making at least 9 cents per can and bottle. And ideally there was additional bottles on top of that, so it was probably something like 9.4 cents. Or
actually, for this particular order, he had almost twice as many cans as the way estimated.
Oh, wow,
good.
So it was very, very good. But anyway,
we found most customers are very generous, for sure.
I think
that was actually, we launched for about 1 week, and within the first week, it was very clear our customers were, especially during COVID, we're more interested in using their proceeds to support the recyclers who are interested in doing this. A lot of people were laid off during that time, right, from their jobs, and they're trying to make more money, and also that they would like to donate them to charity. So we immediately started getting requests of, well, how can I donate this to my local small business, to a charity? And that was immediately I think probably within 2 weeks of launching, we started adding the ability to add charities, and they can sign up with us. It costs a charity nothing at all. There's no downside. It's just you get added to our list, and then you'll start getting sent payments when customers donate to you.
Cool. So 1 cent, that's not much to, I know it's just you two to run a business and to be profitable, and obviously that's going to take some time. What's your end goal with this as far as this? I mean, this is not your full-time gig, I would assume, or is it?
Yeah.
I didn't think so. I shouldn't have said that, but I was like, there's no way. There's no way at a penny a bottle this is full-time. But I really love the idea. Jesper and I were like giddy when we saw it. I'm like, this is such a great idea. So what is your ultimate goal for this? Just, to create other gigs? Do you have things in the back of your head that you think that might work, or what? I'm just curious.
I'll let Jason, you can respond on yours too. I'll give you my thoughts, I guess.
Sure. I mean, I'm enjoying right now just kind of writing it out. It's a fun challenge. It's not like we have a business model that we can look at others and say, well, how are they dealing with that situation?
Right.
It's like we're literally figuring this out and working nights and weekends outside of our day job, trying to make changes and enhance it. And we're constantly making little tweaks and adjustments, because it's a long way. It's a very different product now than it was, 2 years ago. And I think we've got big plans that even in the next year, it's going to change quite a bit more. I've got big goals that I want to get it in the App Store. I just want to overhaul it in general. I want to get certain things working differently and add new features to it. But it takes time when, we've got the day jobs and other kids and, everything else that goes with that. I've also just taken it surprised me how much certain parts of it I enjoyed that I didn't realize. Like, it blew me away how giving people can be. I mean, how many people want to donate to charities, and how even how hardworking some of our recyclers are. And they're, and we hear about some of their stories. We don't know very many of them, but we have some working relationship with a few. And man, some of them are kicking butt, trying so hard to just scrape by some extra money, whether it's paying for diapers for their kid, or just, one family was using it to teach their kids how to earn money and do side work. And it's just fascinating learning about the humanity of it all. And I think it's something I didn't expect I would enjoy so much, but it's really just kind of surprised me. It's kind of been in some ways more enjoyable than I thought. So I'm having fun trying to make a system that is essentially like a win-win for everybody. The recyclers are happy if things go well. They're making some extra money. The customers are happy because they don't have to return their cans and bottles. They also maybe don't donating. It's just kind of like ticking a lot of boxes for a lot of people. And I think that's it's just a really cool fit, I think. And I'm really enjoying that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'll toot Jason's horn here for a second too. I think to the comment of honestly, the recyclers are probably what matter a lot. It's great what we're doing and all that, but it's actually interesting. We start to get to know the recyclers that are doing it regularly. We've gotten to develop some decent relationships with these people, and one of them, she ended up actually having to move to Florida. But one of our top ones that started with us originally, these people through COVID, especially laid off during COVID, a single mother with multiple children just trying to make ends meet. And I remember one time, or maybe it was last Christmas or the Christmas before or something, Jason went and bought groceries for her and drove them to her house. So helping people for sure, I think it's been part of it. And yes, you can do the math on it. We're not making more, our recyclers are making more money than we are in general. But we also have day jobs, right? That we do too. So I think that part's cool about it. But as a business model itself, you start looking at the market, and there's 4 billion roughly cans and bottles a year in Michigan that are recycled. If we could pick up, that's $400 million of deposit revenue per year in Michigan alone. If you could start talking about reasonable market shares of our customers doing that, let's say 100% market share in our model, then we're at 40 million in revenue. At that point. So it could add up. I think, again, I believe there's going to be more and more of this. Some of the discussions we've had with some of the big recycling players in Michigan are around, it's a trend that's not going away. To the point I made earlier about, they're talking about legislation that might actually make more cans or more types of bottles recyclable with a deposit in Michigan. There's more states that are going to be focused on this. Some of the very big bottle distributors, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and things like that, have committed to a certain amount of recycled content, clean recycled content in their bottles a few years out. And Michigan is one of the prime suppliers of that because of our bottle program and because we're sorting clear and not clear and all of that. And what we've been told actually from these large, where basically every bottle and can ends up in Michigan is there's not enough in the United States.
Oh, really?
To meet the demand that's going to be there for recycled content. And so you can imagine these companies are probably doing some lobbying to push more and more of this. But we're just focused on Michigan. There's a huge market here, and we're at 1.6 million cans and bottles. So $160,000 in revenue, essentially, through the deposit value on that.
Yeah.
And so we're just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's available in Michigan. So, we don't have a lot of money to spend, but we don't have a lot of cost either.
Because in 2 years, that's not bad though.
It's actually grown quite exponentially. Actually, I want to say maybe 6 months ago we were at 1 million. And then, 4 months back, it was at 1.2 million. And then 2 months ago, it was at 1.4 million. It's it just it's ticking up, at least in the quantity.
Well, just with all the gig apps out there, we had our show last night, and we talked about you guys again. You've been on 3 different shows because we keep finding new things out about it. But
Nice.
You need customers, right? Like there's all these new rideshare companies starting, right? Try to compete with Uber and Lyft. But if you don't have customers, there's drivers lining up 3 miles long to work for your company. But if you don't have customers, it's nothing. You don't have a concept. You know what I mean? So I'm sure that's what you're struggling with, is getting the word out to potential clients.
It's an interesting
that was the hard part, is balancing customers and supply and demand, right? And that is the central issue with gig economy stuff. Is I was like, well, you look like an Uber and Lyft, and it's like, well, they got to invest millions and millions in software, and then millions and millions in marketing, and then you've got to constantly be looking at your turnover of the gig economy service workers and gig economy customers, and continue to market. I thought that for that reason alone, it would be impossible that we could build a profitable business. But we actually are. We don't make a lot of money, but we actually are profitable. We're not losing money.
That's awesome.
So we kept our costs low by not taking a paycheck.
Of course.
Well, yeah, that too. We don't actually make money. Him and I don't make money, but our bank account has.
Of course.
Well, and don't worry, Brian. Soon you guys are gonna have actual server costs. So.
Well, yeah. We're using Azure virtual machines.
Right,
and of course, with Jason's ability, we're able to keep our costs low there from an IT standpoint as well.
Right.
But certainly, if we had a lot of traffic, our costs would go up there. But they're very minimal on a monthly basis, which is nice.
Tell me a little bit about what happens. I'm going back to the app again. What happens in the case that this is a bad experience for the returner? Is there any way of kind of like rating the buyer or the seller of the cans, and do the seller of the cans have a way of rating the returner? How does that work? Is something like that in the app?
Yeah, we don't have a way at the moment for the recycler to rate the customer. If there's a problem, we usually are we're usually communicating with them, and we ask that they let us know about it. And on a great many more, on quite a few occasions when they're saying, "Hey, I went out there and this was a total bust. It had trash in it, or whatever it might be." Oh. We work with them, and we typically compensate them for up to a certain amount or whatever, or even just for gas money, because we wanted to make their worth their while. And we're, like I said, we're not trying to scalp them for money here. So we want them to be happy with the end result, because they're the I want to say the workhorse behind a lot of what we do. The customer side, they do give us a rating at the end, or they optionally can, right, of how well they like the service. Would they be willing to offer it to someone else and that sort of thing. But not necessarily specifically their driver, more of their overall experience of how was it.
So on the customer side, we use Net Promoter Score, which is that question you probably see on a lot of stuff called, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend company X to a friend or colleague or whatever, right, or a neighbor. We do get customer results that way. And honestly, I've done quite a bit of businesses with this. I've never had the ratings. We're 9s and 10s on everything. I mean, I think our Net Promoter Score is 92% or something, and it can go from negative 100% to positive 100%. I've never seen that, which is quite incredible. And then, I'll add to Jason's, I think, on the recycler side too. Ultimately, if a recycler goes out, picks up a cans and bottles and they're terrible, we have a little flag button. They can flag the order, tell us about the issue. There's also a chat button where they can send us a chat about the issue. And if they do that, depending on the circumstances, right, we're usually, okay, there's a problem with this customer we need to worry about, but also we need to help make sure this is okay. Make the recycler right. And then we can actually go to the customer's account. And the system we've developed so far is a very passive one. We don't want to go email the customer and be like, hey, there was a bunch of garbage in your pickup request, right, and bother them with it at this point. So we actually add a note to their account that next time they come in to try and add a recycle, they'll get a little pop-up, the passive message, right, of, hey, last time you did a pickup, you said you had 500 cans of bottles. It ended up being 350, and there was a lot of non-recyclables in there and banana peels and whatever, right? Please make sure your next pickup is good. And then it's actually, that's solved most of the problems for us. These are kind of the additions Jason's talking about that we've added. But in the rare occasion where we get another terrible pickup, well, we know who the customer is, and eventually, right, we can say, okay, we're just not going to service your house, your address anymore.
You're off the platform.
But we would like to add a lot more of that. I think that's on the scope of things we would like to work on, is more of like, how do we get a recycler to, what we'd also like is a recycler to say, here's how many there actually were. Yep. And then auto request a refund for that amount, and we would just instantly refund them.
It becomes challenging knowing, we're always afraid someone's going to abuse that system. But the truth is, I don't know how often that would really happen. more than once, maybe twice, and if we wrote the software right, we would make sure we're aware of it. If a single recycler is doing it 3 times in a row, well, maybe they're using it to get money back and it's affecting our customers. So we're trying to make the software where it runs itself, because we used to be involved on probably 2 out of 10 pickups. We had to be hand holding something or another. And as we streamline the process better and make communication better between recyclers and the customers, and make it where they can chat together while also hiding some of their personal information so they don't get each other's phone numbers and emails, and it's made the whole process so much smoother. I mean, we might go 3 or 4 days worth without even having a single request that we have to deal with.
Right.
That's the goal, as much hands off as possible. So I want to talk a little bit about the money. So I assume that the recycler puts a card on file, and then you just bill the recycler's card, right? When they pick up the cans?
Nothing on file. We basically use like a behind the scenes payment processing, and they can pay on the spot with PayPal, or they can pay with a credit card, right there on the spot. They can enter it in.
Okay.
We don't store it. It doesn't go through us in any way, because we don't want that kind of security, on our backs where you have to risk anything. So the process, he or she purchases the cans, they go to the store, they return the cans, and then they're like, oh, okay, I have these slips from Meyer, let's say, and then they go get it. So where does Uncle Sam come in all this? That's a great question that our tax lawyer was not able to answer for us.
Yeah. Again, because of the flow of the way the money goes, we don't know. Right, we don't know what our recyclers make. We don't know. And there's no way we could ever know, because we don't know how many cans and bottles were actually in any individual pickup. So the way Uncle Sam comes into play is it's on the recyclers to report their tax, their income and their taxes accordingly to their local, state, and federal requirements. But yeah, they're getting cash back from the store. They're paying us money to buy really a commodity of aluminum or plastic, and then they're reselling it at a higher rate. But we have no idea what they've resold it to at a store,
And you as a company do not have a requirement to fill out and send 1099s out, right?
Because
so that was the immediate question, right? When we first launched to this lawyer, it's like, well, are they 1099 employees? Are they employees? Are they 1099 employees, or are they nothing, right? And we were like, well, they're paying us. So I don't know how they could be 1099 employees, right?
I mean, it's kind of brilliant the way you set it up, right? Because the moment they pick up the cans, you guys have no more risk.
Yeah. That's why we refund people again to make sure things are okay.
But
absolutely, that's why we're actually profitable. And yes, 1 penny's not a lot, but it was made to be, if we did 1 pickup or we did 100,000 pickups, it becomes profitable for us on day 1.
Yeah,
but you don't really care if the returner throws away the cans.
Correct.
Exactly.
You may go build a can.
No, do not say that. We're trying to.
From a recycling standpoint, absolutely we care. But I'm saying, we have Art Prize in Grand Rapids. So I use this as an example when people say this to me all the time, right?
I didn't mean it negatively.
If you gone down to Art Prize and looked around, sometimes there's entire giant pieces of artwork built out of cans and bottles or recycled things, right? I don't know if I don't know if our recycler is using this for art and then going to recycle it later at Shoe Pan without having, a 10-cent deposit, or if they're going to take it back to the store. But yes, you're correct. They're essentially purchasing plastic and aluminum at the door, and whatever they do with it after that, we don't know about. But the nice part for the recycler is there's no timeline. So what happens with a lot of recyclers, in fact, one of our big ones, like they actually get they purchase a storage shed to just do pick up, store. And then they'll go a week of just recycling.
They did it like a family thing.
Because the customer's already paid, we're set. We have no idea what they do with it afterwards.
Yeah. I did want to circle back around quickly, though, on the tax question. To be clear, Sipzee pays taxes on our
of course.
But yes, as far as the recycler goes, we don't really know.
I guess in my conspiracy head, I feel like at a smaller scale, the IRS is going to be like, yeah, whatever. But if it blows up, they're going to be like, maybe we should take a look at this. Logically, I totally understand where you're coming from, that you should not have any liability whatsoever. But I'm just like, man, that seems weird.
So
Absolutely. If at $300 an hour we could, spend have a lawyer look at this and we get big enough where it matters, right? Like we're not. I mean, it's just such small money right now that I totally agree. And in fact, that was our lawyer's thing. It's like, well, at some point maybe we would need to add a reporting structure into the application so the recycler can tell us how many they recycled at a particular time. But still, that's complete. There's no scenario where you can take out the trust of what somebody's telling you.
Yeah, of course, as a recycler, they don't want that because, I'm recommending anyone that listening, if you make over $600 or whatever the hell money is, you should probably claim it. I wouldn't, but I would, but I wouldn't.
I would.
Yeah. But no, it is a good question to think about. I'm like thinking with the IRS is going to be like, well, we're just going to take the estimator and we're just going to assume they returned. You know what I mean? It could get clunky, but
I was thinking about that. And, and I don't know if you guys are doing this today or not, but as an Uber driver, Uber will give you a yearly report of how much you made, right?
Yeah.
And Uber is weird because, and if drivers don't know this, they're in trouble. But basically, the report is you make everything that Uber charges the customer. And,
gross.
Yeah, the gross. And then you had to subtract the Uber fees from that yourself as a business expense.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So that's kind of how they make you do it.
It would apply the same with your business too. When I paid $30 for cans, that's a business expense.
Exactly. So
we tell our recyclers track your miles. There's some training stuff right when you first sign up, or like again, you need to pay taxes according with tax law.
But I was thinking,
you should track expenses because you can probably deduct some of those, right?
Oh, absolutely. What I was thinking was if you guys at the end of the year would provide a report with at least the estimated earnings based on what they took in, at least it's a starting point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That is something we've gotten some feedback from some of our recyclers is we do allow a little bit of, you can see your past completed pickups and stuff, but we don't have a good way of like diving in and saying, I want to see this range. I want to download it as an Excel file or whatever. I mean, that's all things we could easily do. We just haven't. Haven't put the time in.
For right now, a recycler, when they complete an order, they don't get to go back, open it, and see the details of the order, like the address, the customer, and that's because we don't want to deal with that, right? But they actually, every recycler, we have some that have done 300-400 completed pickups. Like they have a full list of all of that they can look at the date and the quantity that was associated with that order. Now, again, every one of those doesn't necessarily mean it was more or less than that quantity, but this is we call it the estimated amount. So even if a customer says they can use our estimator tool, in which case it's probably an underestimate, but they can also put in their exact quantity, but that's still an estimate because you can say I have 1,000 cans and bottles. I guarantee you as a customer, if you counted all 1,000, you probably miscounted first of all. But if you counted that perfectly correctly, some of those cans are going to be crushed and not be able to go through the machines and not be recyclable for 10 cents. Also, some of them are going to be not recyclable because, it'll be at some obscure store maybe that can't be recycled at Meijer, or it's just not a recyclable brand. Somebody put a Gatorade bottle in there, right? All of that. So, So we do give them at least their quantity, but ultimately, it would be nice if like people could export that at least and see for their estimates plus mileage driven, right? If they could put in their, I think this is another opportunity, right? Put in your address. Compare that to the miles.
That's too complicated. Just start at the beginning or use an app to track it.
It's not that complicated, Jason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
I don't know if they did 2 pickups in a row, or they built out a route, or if they did each one from home.
So as we're wrapping up here, where are you currently? Just in GR?
Anywhere in Michigan, technically. Anywhere where a recycler has signed up, the service is available. Most of it's concentrated in Grand Rapids, Detroit, and some of the medium size in between. We have some in Ann Arbor,
Kalamazoo a little bit too.
Okay. And then what is your current pain point as far as, my guess is you're looking for clients or customers, right? Mm-hmm. Because every time I get a notification and I go in there to even just like look at it's claimed. So my guess is you need more customers.
Yes. That's probably, like, I would love it where someone can just log in and have, I don't know, 5 or 10 to choose from, and there's just constant churn. Not that we're fighting for it, because some of them want them so bad, and I hate the fact that they've got 10 other people in their area that also want them so bad, and it's a race sometimes. And
Yeah.
I hate that for them.
Yeah, honestly though, I'm happy that's our problem. I mean, it's neither problem is good, but if I had to solve one, I would rather. The worst thing is having customers with nobody to service them.
100%
as well. So, but yeah, I think that is that is surprisingly to me our pain point. Which again, back to your very early on question about the breakdown of the pricing, indicates to me it's maybe reasonable that the 4 cents for a recycler given all the stuff we talked about with the bonus bottles and things, that it actually is reasonably profitable for a recycler to do the work, because we do seem to have pretty quick claiming rates on pickup requests.
Right.
With it.
So you can go to Sipzee.com to become a customer or a recycler. I've already changed my verbiage. I've heard the word recycler, so that's what I'm going to be using. It's hard to figure out. It gets a little, as you probably learned, it gets a little clunky when you're using different terms. You're like, wait, which is the customer?
Yeah,
which
the customer is recycling. I don't know.
Yeah, because you are purchasing the cans, but you're also recycling. Like, we got to clean this up. So I appreciate that. So Sipzee.com for everything that you need, and I appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah, it was really awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Fun.
This podcast is produced and edited by Hey Guys Media Group. Want to start a podcast? Check out heyguysmediagroup.com.